Everyone loves a footballing success story, whether that's clubs coming from nowhere to challenge for titles and trophies, or whether that's players working their way up through the divisions to show that they deserve to be in the top flight of whatever country they play in. And the latter one's what we're going to focus on today when looking at 21-year-old Falkirk striker Barney Stewart, who's not only a goal scorer in the Scottish Premiership these days, he's also a Scotland under-21 international, which is an incredible rise considering just over a year ago he was playing as low as the 8th tier for Heriot-Watt University. But how did he get here? What has his journey been so far? Well, he was born in London to Scottish parents. When he was playing as a youngster, he came through at QPR's academy. He also played at a high level in tennis and rugby as well, but football took full focus. And when it came time to go to uni, Heriot-Watt came up as an option. His dad grew up just outside of Edinburgh, and when he was here, he played in a bounce game against Pennycook, and he really impressed in that game to the point the uni wanted to get him in the football scholarship programme, which he accepted and ended up studying sports and medicine. And whilst he was playing there in the 23-24 season, it's reported he scored around 40 goals, which got the attention of a lot of professional clubs, Falkirk being one of them. Falkirk pulled the trigger in October 24, agreed to sign Barney Stewart on the basis that he would focus on and finish his degree. So then, January 2025, he eventually made it to Falkirk and made his first team debut there, played the rest of the season, picked up an injury that summer, but at the start of this season, he went on loan to Dunfermline, really impressed there. Came back to Falkirk in January, and then he started scoring goals in the Premiership. And in that loan at Dunfermline is when he got the Scotland under-21 call-up. So it's been a really impressive rise for Barney Stewart so far. And now we're going to talk to Jamie Swinney to talk through his journey at Falkirk and how he got there. And for this part of the video, I'm delighted to be joined by Falkirk CEO Jamie Swinney. Jamie, thank you so much for joining. How's it going?
It's going to be okay. Thanks for the invitation to come on.
So obviously the whole point of this video is discussing the journey of Barney Stewart, how he got to Falkirk, how he's doing now. It's been a massive rise, which I'm sure you're delighted with, not only from the Falkirk perspective, but for obviously the player himself, managing to rise up through the levels. That much of the first question I kind of want to start off with is, how often do you scout to that level? Heriot-Watt obviously playing in one of these Scotland leagues. Is it somewhere you look at a lot? Was there anyone that kind of identified Barney Stewart as a player you should go and look at? Like how did that process come about?
Yeah, I think like a lot of things in football, you work off networks. So John and Paul and our head scout, Alan Fraser, they have fantastic networks in the game, given the number of years that they've all been involved, and they're very well respected individuals within the game as well. So we do receive tip-offs, recommendations from people on a regular basis, and this was one of those scenarios. So it's not one that we have scouts out at East of Scotland games every Saturday. That would be false to say that. However, we did fairly not long before Barney, we did bring Keelan Adams in from at the time Cumbernauld Colts. We were in the Lowland League, and Keelan's came on and done terrific. I think he played every game in our championship winning season, and now he's acquitted himself really well in the Scottish Premiership. So we had done it relatively recently, and we got a tip off, and then once we had a tip off, we did, at that point have a closer look at Barney to see how he was doing, and there was certainly evidence there to suggest that he could make a step up or several steps up. As it turns out, we then went a league beyond where we were at that point in time as well. So like a lot of things in football, I think you do operate off networks and recommendations, as well as having people physically at games and obviously looking at data and analytics and video footage of players as well.
So obviously having scouts at the game is the main thing. So I looked at the data and there's nothing there for Barney Stewart. So how long would you say the scouts went to watch him for? Was it certain attributes that immediately stood out, or did they just look at him and go, like, his overall game's way too good for this level?
Yeah, I think as a striker, his goal return was pretty ridiculous. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was essentially, I think it was more than a goal a game, which when you look at what the numbers are in professional football, that's a staggering number. So there was that alone, and then once we got eyes on the player, we felt that he had quite a lot of potential, and that was when we first decided that we were interested in him.
So obviously looking at Barney's development, coming from that level, getting the kind of 6 months settling in period, shall we call it, in the championship with Falkirk, to then go back to that level for Dunfermline, which again I think is a massive credit to the staff there that have realised that that's the best move for him. It probably would have been really easy to write him off after that first 6 months, even though you've seen some good things there. to maybe see he's not ready for that level and send him down to League One, League Two. But I think the Championship was the perfect move, going to Dunfermline, scoring the goals he scored there. And then he comes back into the Premiership and just looks like he belongs at that level, gets the hat-trick against Hibs, which for a poacher's perfect. You want your strikers in between the posts. Probably, 10 yards between all the finishes, getting in there, putting himself in there, and then the double at the weekend as well, taking him to 5 goals and 2 assists in the limited time he's had since he's came back. So I know this is a difficult question, one that's really hard to answer, but how far do you think he can go in the game?
Yeah, difficult one to answer. His ceiling, I think, is definitely, there's certainly a good bit more trajectory with regards to Barney's development. He's somebody who's keen to learn. He's got a great attitude and enthusiasm to learn and to play the game. So that gives him a really good start. He did come in and do well even in the first 6 months, given how much of a step up that was. And credit to John and Paul and the backroom staff for already integrating him in at that point in time and getting him out on the pitch in the Championship, because even that, you're throwing somebody in the Championship who had been playing 5-6 levels down before that. So they gave him a chance. He started to show some signs already, even in that first period. And we felt that the move to Dunfermline, which clearly is an interesting one for us, given it's our biggest rivals, it was not lost on me and the board at the time that was something we had to give consideration to, is sending them to your biggest rivals. However, what we felt the Dunfermline loan would do was test them at a club that's a similar sized club, a club that's got expectations, a club that's got a good fan base, under a manager who's clearly very experienced in the game, that's going to put demands on him. And we felt that was the right environment for him. And we're delighted that the goals that he did get not only showed him that he's capable of playing Championship football, but gave him, I think, the confidence to come back and hit the ground running in the Premiership. And he's certainly done that. As you say, 5 goals in a relatively short space of time in the Scottish Premiership is fantastic. And he's growing all the time. He's learning all the time. So back to your question, how far can he go? I'm not entirely sure, but I do believe that there's plenty more growth left in him.
I think one of the biggest testaments to him, like you say, it was a bit of a controversial loan move at the time, especially I'd probably say more so from the Dunfermline fans' perspective, bringing in the Falkirk striker on loan. But you see how much their fans loved him after the first couple of games. And I think with that rivalry there and being able to get fans to forget about that because of how good a striker you are, it's a massive testament to Barney and what he's been able to do. And then, like you say, he's carried that on into the Premiership, which not a lot of players can do. Not a lot of players will stand out in the Championship and be able to make that a step up, but being able to step up from like East of Scotland to the Championship to then the Premier League, like the development's incredible. And the last question I just wanted to ask you, briefly touched on it, but what's he like to work with as a person, as a player? Because like you say, it's a massive step up. He's still only 21, so it's a lot to kind of take in as well. Like, how has it been since he came in, and what's he like to work with?
He's an incredibly positive person. I think that's the first thing I'd say. He's always got a smile on his face. He's a very likeable guy, and I know the management team enjoy working with him as a player. And as I say, he's got that real enthusiasm to learn, which I think can take a player quite far if you're really willing to learn off others. He gave himself quite a hard time recently away to Tynecastle, the game they lost 1-0. And he probably beat himself up quite a bit, which is quite an incredible thing considering 7 months, just over a year before that, he was playing at a much lower level. He's then leading the line at Tynecastle, and Hearts are top of the league. We were very competitive in the game, and he maybe felt he could have done better on a couple of occasions, and we lose the game 1-0, and he's beating himself up. So I think that shows you his character, which is he wants to be the best he can, and he wasn't happy that he hadn't maybe done quite as well as he would have liked to. Then he followed up that with not only 2 goals against Kilmarnock, but he got one chalked off and set another one up, and put in the goalkeeper pulled off a fantastic save. Another one, so another day he could have 4 or 5 against Kilmarnock at the weekend. So a really good response from him, which again shows the strength of character.
Yeah, I think all very positive things from what you've seen on the pitch, what you've seen in terms of development. Like you say, sounds like a great character, and having that determination, something that's maybe rare in today's game. Just having that determination to be the best player you can possibly be. So the type of player, honestly, wish goes as far as he can. But Jamie, thank you so much for coming on, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much.
It was really interesting chatting to Jamie, because I really wanted to know more about Barney Stewart's journey and how he managed to end up at Falkirk. how they came across him, how he fell on their radar, and what the journey was like from there. So a really interesting chat that I think really gives you an insight into not only the scouting side of it, but the mentality and the personality of Barney Stewart. But let's move over into the analysis side of things. We're going to look at the first 6 months he had at Falkirk before going on loan to Dunfermline this season. So you can see there, looking at 24-25 season data, ranks really highly in XG per 90, shots per 90, touches in the box per 90 as well. I feel like he's a really old-fashioned striker that likes to play between the posts. He knows where to be, picks up brilliant positions. He's strong in the air. He's a threat from set pieces, crosses into the box. He just uses his frame really well. Just a really interesting striker and one I don't think you see an awful lot of these. He's got 2 goals here, and obviously Jamie said in an interview previously that he did impress a lot, but they maybe thought that he needed a bit more time at that level. So he went on loan to Dunfermline for the start of the season to play under Neil Lennon. And again, you can see how well he ranks in terms of goals, goals per 90, non-penalty goals, and the goal conversion rate, getting 8 goals and 12 appearances for Dunfermline. And Watch was a controversial loan, and a lot of their fans didn't want him there at the start, but he managed to win them over. And I think that says a lot about not only his personality, but about the ability he has as well. You look at the goals here, he knows where to be. The first goal he scores is an overhead kick just from using his frame and being in a good position. A lot of headers scored as well. Just the power he can get in headers. He knows how to direct it, how to use his body to outmuscle the defenders. Like I said previously, uses his frame so well to get in those positions, and he's just really intelligent to know where to be to meet the ball just at the right time. And I just think he's the perfect striker for what Falkirk are doing. And that takes us up to what he's done for Falkirk now. So since coming back in January in 10 appearances, he's got 5 goals and 2 assists. 3 of those goals coming against Hibs, just brilliant strikers finishes. Again, attacks the ball really aggressively inside the box, good positioning, wants to beat the defenders to the ball, so aggressive and trying to get there. Then he had a double at the weekend as well. Again, just some really good striker finishes. Good in the air, just that intelligence to put himself in between the posts. And like I said, I think he's perfect for Falkirk because he creates so many chances to have the ball out wide so much. With the likes of Calvin Miller, being able to take players on, you have Lisa, Leon, McCann, constantly looking to overlap, get the ball into the box. And Barney Stewart's going to thrive on that. Goals per 90 is really high for a striker that's just come into the league, still only 21 years old. This was his first taste of Scottish Premiership action as well, and he's just settled in really well. I think he's a striker that's going to do really well for Falkirk. I don't know if there's going to be interest in the summer. I'd imagine there probably would be teams that create a lot of chances and focus on width and set pieces. I think he'd be great for just with that aggressive nature in between the posts and his ability to find space and get on the ball before the defenders do. What have you thought about Barney Stewart so far this season? What have you thought about his journey to get here, about how well Falkirk have done, not only the talent spotting and the development and the player himself, showing that determination and showing the ability that he not only belonged in the Championship, but then stepping up to the Premiership to show he belongs there as well. I'd love to know your thoughts on Barney Stewart and where you think he could be in the future. Bit of different content today, but something I want to do a bit more of. It was great to speak to Jamie, get his perspective, and then adding a bit of my own as well, along with the journey of how he got here. So please let me know if you enjoy the content. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and have a great day.